Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of country and bluegrass with an artist that we've actually had on the channel before, Béla Fleck. Although I believe last time we checked them out, they were with a larger group. I think it was Béla Fleck and the Fleckstones, which is still a fantastic title for a band. Let's dive into this though. The album's called The Bluegrass Sessions, so I think we're getting some bluegrass today. Although Béla is a banjoist, so I kind of assumed you were going to get some bluegrass. Let's dive into this. We're going to look at the track Blue Mountain Hop. Let's dive in. Yeah, now we're getting into it. So we have the bass, boom, 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 really laying down this downbeat. But then we have the strum on the guitar in between the bass hits, which gives it that bounciness. You have the downbeat and then the offbeat, or they emphasize 1, 2, 3, 4 if you're feeling it at the faster speed. Very warm harmonies from the chords over here. Yeah. Back and the forth is really nice. Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Jumping in on the rhythm. Yeah. Well done. So what I was chuckling about there at the end, I think that was the best little solo section I've heard on that track. I don't know if we can call the rest solo sections, but it is primarily single instrument melody driven. So they're kind of solos in that right, but none of them really dipped the energy down on the accompanying parts in order to make that space for the soloist like we saw at the end. Anyways, though, that section was just phenomenal. First of all, we still have on the upright bass the, holding down of the tempo, that boom, 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 just kind of keeping this accent going, keeping those downbeats consistent throughout. The guitarist leans into this with accent points, kind of just dancing around two notes right here, quite a bit faster than the bass, but still two notes, kind of focusing in on this rhythmic pulse right here before adding more notes into it, and then eventually using the additional notes as new accent points, jumping into a triplet feel here that eventually eventually evolves into polymeter. And we end up hearing some really progressive rhythmic devices here, as not only are we just expanding the rhythmic device, but the banjoist is also, I guess this is Béla playing this, they're also expanding their melody, moving from just two notes to three to four to a full-on melody within this new triplet feel and the expanded polymetric concepts. Eventually, we even have some instrument over here that's doing these little slides. Not in those exact rhythms, but they're playing around with the polyrhythmic accents coming from the banjo. And it is this beautiful evolution from a pretty static idea. And then slowly, what if we ramped up the complexity here, ramped up the complexity on this part, ramped up the complexity here? What if other instruments began to join in on the complex elements that I'm focusing on this solo track? And it just continues to expand and grow in such a natural way that just makes sense and is easily digestible. This is a beautiful merger of digestibility, of palatability. I think anyone can listen to this and just enjoy the vibes of it, but if you really start paying attention and have the musical knowledge, you can see just how much complexity is going on, just how much depth there is to this final minute and a half or so. And just when I caught on to that, I was like, dude, you're getting real slick here, just sliding in some of this depth and this complexity in here. And I just saw the micro changes, moving this, moving that, until the pieces all form together into a puzzle. Dude, it's just so good. Phenomenally done. I enjoyed this. I like bluegrass in general. I enjoyed a lot of coming up to this part, but this really sold me. Just how everything comes together, starting from one person and just spreading out until we're incorporating all these other instruments into this depth. And then the call and response going on at the end as well. It's just, dang, dude. Masterclass in digestible, iterative, digestible, expansive iteration, to take an idea and expand on it while still referencing back to the original baseline concept, all the while adding complexity and depth to it. Like every every 4 bars. It's such a quick movement. We don't sit in one idea for very long at all, and we're already evolving it. We're already putting an iteration of it. We're already evolving it to that next concept. Beautiful, dude. Masterclass. Makes it sound so easy too. That's the best part. And I tell you, it's like being in on a joke, like being in on a prank. And it's like, I can see all the machinations getting set up, and I'm like, you're not going to do this. There's no way you do this. And then he did it. Oh, man. Masterclass. I don't need to say it again, but I want to because that's what that was. All right, everything else in this track. I do see some more of this expansive iteration throughout. I think most of this track is about building off of what's come before it. There was only two places I think that we kind of, I wouldn't say that we wiped the slate clean and started over, but something along that vibe. Because honestly, the upright bass, pretty consistent throughout. The percussive work, pretty consistent throughout. Those definitely don't have a lot of variation in them, but the ornamental ideas, the secondary strings, a lot of the lead lines going on throughout here, we can probably chop this up into three distinct moments based on when we see the largest amount of change. But I think it's interesting that despite being able to break it up into these moments, it's still cohesive. I wouldn't say that this is disjointed in any way. And I think a lot of that comes down to the ways that new ideas are still based off of some sort of framework that can tie all of them together. Some sort of glue that's holding the entire song as one. Yeah. I don't know. I was just revisiting some of the music, dude. I don't want to talk about this. I just want to listen to more. So we have a pretty straightforward structure here. It's just A, B, C as far as I can tell. Linear, but they're all connected. How most of these are built, though, is layering of foundational ideas against a lead concept, sometimes two lead concepts, and then some ornamental stuff. The foundational stuff is pretty consistent. It's our bass, it's our percussion, it's usually some sort of rhythm instrument, usually something that is polyphonic, some sort of guitar maybe, a banjo, I don't know. Some sort of plucked string instrument though that can play chords, and that alongside the bass is giving us our harmonic floor. The drums are consistent, they're giving us our beat. What I really love about this is that right at the beginning, it introduced the bounciness through this foundation. The upright bass, laying it down, man. Like I said, every beat, boom, 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 just locking it in. But in between each beat, we have whatever the rhythm instrument is, strumming these chords in between. So you have boom, gum, boom, gum, boom, gum, boom, boom. And you have these little like bouncy accents against the lower end sound of the bass. And it's just constant, the back and forth throughout this entire thing, like bouncing or like watching a ping pong, just keep going back and forth on a ping pong table. And it's just, it is infectious right from the start. You can't ignore the energy that they're building. Building is not even the right word. We started at like an 8. Right off the bat, you just get sucked into it. It is difficult. Actually, that's not true. There is like a 1 minute buildup. Oh, I guess we do need to talk about that. That was kind of awkward. But once we get into the song proper, at like a minute, 7 seconds in, minute, 10 seconds in, it's right there. All the energy is there, and we're going to run with it through the entirety of the song. I actually forgot about the intro. It did not grab my attention at all. Let's talk about that for a second. It is called the Bluegrass Sessions, and it's quite possible that all of this is completely live. Maybe this isn't, maybe it's still done in a studio, but one take style kind of stuff. Most of this track feels pre-composed. There's too many ideas that get passed from one instrument to another, and maybe this group is just incredibly in sync with each other, and they've played, hundreds, thousands of hours with each other on stage, and they just know how to communicate musically. It's quite possible this was all improvised. But I'm thinking it's not. The intro, though, suggests that. We have a little line come in, and the guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing with that?" And he's like, "Oh, let me see." He builds off of it a little bit, and the guy's like, "Oh, I see what you're doing." And then another instrument comes in and builds off of that, and kind of builds the energy one more time, and then we're in the song proper. So it almost feels like this is all just off the cuff. someone just playing a riff, someone else building off of it, someone else building off of that. But the song proper feels too well rehearsed, too well communicated for me to believe that that's how the majority of this song is. I think that's a bit of a framing for this song more than anything else. But I also find it not really engaging. I can't believe it would be something that would be an aspect I look forward to on future listens either. It does help get the song from the silence of the track beginning into the song proper. It does function as an intro, but it's not a particularly interesting one. And since I don't believe the framing of it to be setting this up as some sort of little jam session, although again, it certainly could, but at this moment in time, I don't believe that it is. It doesn't really do anything for me. It's just kind of there. It's neat in that it's unique. I don't hear a lot of songs do this, but it isn't totally unique either. I have heard some songs that sound like a bunch of people just kind of talking as if they left some part of the rehearsal part into the studio recording somehow, or maybe some random dialogue between an instrumentalist and the producer or something, and that kind of gets left in. I've heard that a couple of times. It's kind of neat, but it's never anything I really look forward to. And so I'm just kind of left here wondering if maybe there wasn't a better way of doing this, unless, of course, this is all improvised, which I think would be absolutely bonkers. Because here's the deal. I'd say 70% of this could very well be improvised. Most of this is kind of static on the foundational side. It's not a lot of complexity there. This is certainly complexity through simplicity, where you have 5, 6, 7 layers, and each of those layers is rather simple. The bass, after all, is just bouncing between 2 notes 90% of this track. But because you have layers and layers and layers, it ends up being rather dense. And this density is where the complexity comes from, how all these instruments interact with everything else. So on that level, given that there's not a lot of change on the foundation, and the foundation is fairly simple, I could see this being a bit more improvised or jam session-y. The call and response, though, is really clearly done. It is quickly paced. These people would have to be real fast on the trigger. They'd have to be able to come up with responses in less than a second. I mean, we're talking about trading off every 2 or 3 seconds maybe, and you got to have a good response. And most of the time the responses mimicked something that was in the call, which means you've got a couple of seconds to figure out exactly what that little lick was that the other person played, and then how to modify that and evolve it so that they can use it as a jumping off point for their next line. I'm not saying it can't be done. These people got to be real good though, not just with their instruments, but also the improvisational skills and the ear skills to be able to pick up exactly what's being played and match it back. They could be. Listening to these people play, really great musicians. But improvising is a totally different beast, and maybe they got those skills, maybe they don't. Here's the other thing though, when we brought the energy down, coming into the final minute or so of this track, everybody would have had to been in on that. Now, this could be something conducted. Maybe someone just takes, a bar off. They're not playing anything, and they're just like, we're going to bring it down, and we're out. And just kind of chilling here for a little bit. It could be possible to conduct this live, but again, it's going to require a lot of attention, a lot of familiarity, understanding how everything's going to work. This is not something you can pull off with a band you've never played with before. And I think that this is either going to... This song's either going to be amazing or phenomenal, because it's already a solid song from my understanding that it's pre-composed. But if y'all tell me, nah, this is totally jam sessioned, They just kind of made it up on the fly, and they were in the studio. They just recorded it, called it a day. That's just going to elevate it. Absolutely, because the more I think about it, the call and response, the phrasing, the passage of these sections, the transitions, the way that some of these instruments build off of other instruments, the entire outro being ideas stacked on and built from other ideas. Dude, if this was all made up on the fly, why would they ever pre-compose anything? They've got the chops to make stuff that sounds pre-composed. Absolutely phenomenal. If that's the case, I'm still not quite believing it. I mean, if they do this, they're like cream of the crop improvisers. I don't doubt humanity. I have heard humans play some crazy stuff. I don't ever think there's a point when I listen to something and think humans can't do that. But I also know the probability to get 7 humans together who could have done this live is really low, but that doesn't mean it's non-existent. What else I got to say about this? The soloing's fantastic. The melodies are great. The production's a little tight. I wish there was a little more clarity going on, a little more space between the instruments. But honestly, it's kind of bluegrass in general. It's kind of, especially something like this, a bit more progressive. I think just having the muddier sounds, and it's not even super muddy. That's the thing. It's just, I would like a little more clarity, a little more space between. But it sells the idea of a bunch of people just in a small room playing with each other. And the production on that's not going to be perfect. So I think it works well for drawing a specific atmosphere in the mind of the listener. Even if it isn't quite as good for, say, analytical discussion and critical listening. But other than that, I really have no issues with this track. And it did not feel like 4.5 minutes at all. And some of that might be that the first minute I kind of erased from my mind. It kind of feels like a 3.5 minute song, honestly. But it is just a blast to listen to. It is fun, it is bouncy, it is complex, it is deep. The writing in this is so intricate despite it being so fun and easy to listen to. I mean, what more can I say? What more would you want me to say? This is the type of song that can just be summed up in one sentence. Fun and easy to listen to, but depth if you want to look for it. These are my thoughts. Béla Fleck's The Bluegrass Sessions. No, that's the name of the album. Blue Mountain Hop. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own thoughts, perspective, or opinion on this track. Let me know. Put all that stuff and whatever else you'd like to add into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here, you can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.